All right, so we're going to continue from last week. We began chapter 80, Perek Pet. And so we're going to do the last Pesukim, the last verses of chapter 80, and then we're going to go on to 81. They're not so long, these chapters. Before we begin, I want to point out something very significant about these chapters and about others as well. There's a certain theme that runs across, especially some of them, in dealing with the end of days, with the Messianic era. Very important theme, an important idea that a lot of people are not aware of. And I was thinking about this theme as to how it relates to the Segula, to the special powers of these chapters. We say that the special powers of these chapters is to help one avoid being caught in a cult or being driven to heresy as a result of his very weak faith, his weak emunah. He may go and be Oved Avodat Tehilim. He may become pagan. In the olden days, paganism was a bigger problem than today, but today it's called being an atheist, or just not believing in anything. And there are people who may have grown up in a religious home, observant home, good home. They start off being exposed to the emunah, to the faith. Somehow, for some reason, it's not always obvious, they let go of it. They want to have nothing to do with it. And it's a very, very painful experience for the family, for the friends. And it's not so easy to bring him back. So these chapters, 80 and 81, are helpful. Besides being helpful in that they contain probably some Kabbalistic power. In other words, just by saying the words, they may be helpful, especially if one repeats them and says them on a regular basis. It may help him if he accepts to read it. You know, with a lot of people who may be sick do not easily take medication. They don't want it. Either they don't believe that they're sick, either they don't trust the medication, either they're just plain stubborn. And that's the same problem with those who are spiritually sick. They don't want to hear any argument. They don't want to be convinced they've already made up their mind. That's a very, very tough case. So if someone is willing to say Tehilim, it's very powerful. But I think I may have uncovered the more logical reason of why these chapters in particular are geared towards helping someone cool off from Avodat Tehilim. In other words, he should not get trapped into this atheism. And the reason is the theme that runs across both of them. And that is that history repeats itself. That we've heard. And since history repeats itself, we're being told the mistakes of the past that hopefully we won't repeat. But it's not just about the mistakes of the past. Here, what we're going to soon see, and it began with chapter 80, but it's much more emphasized in 81, is that Kegeula Acharona Kach Geula Atida. In the same way that we had a redemption, an exodus from Egypt once upon a time, and it was miraculous, it was very, very observable. The same thing will happen with the Geula Atida, with the coming Geula. The coming redemption will be very, very powerful. And pretty much a lot of what we experienced in the past will repeat itself again. No one will be able to say, oh, this is just a coincidence, this is just an act of nature. Everybody will clearly say that this is the hand of Hashem. So perhaps by reading these words, the gentleman who may have trouble with emunah may come to the realization, but wait a minute, apparently the rabbis tell us that there is a script. You know, like a movie, there's a script, it's written, and if you know the script, you already know what's going to happen in the movie. You know what happens in the movie. The good guys always win. So if someone reads the script beforehand, and we have a script, it's in the Nevi'im, the prophets, it's in the Torah, it's in the Kabbalah, you can actually predict approximately, only approximately, what's going to happen. And we're living in the generation where a lot of it is already happening. We can see it. We have over 7 million Jews living in Israel. Is that not a kibbutz galuyot? Isn't that a partial gathering? You only had a few thousand at the turn of the 20th century. Only a few thousand Jews there living in Israel. I think about 10,000. Today, over 7 million. What is that? People just decided to go and move there? So things are happening. So there is a script, and the script is very similar to the one from Egypt in certain ways. And if you follow the script, you will see for yourself, wait a minute. Yes, someone is managing this. Someone is enabling this to happen in a very miraculous way. So perhaps someone who's weak in his emunah for whatever reason may be reinforced. His faith may be hopefully strengthened as a result of seeing, but wait a minute, yeah, I can identify with this. I can see this. There's a lot of truth, a lot of validity to this. And perhaps his emunah will be stronger. So perhaps, again, that's my thinking of why would this segula, the special powers of these chapters, be especially good for someone who's having trouble or someone who's about to fall and go, to some other religion. Because it reminds us of a script. The script exists, and if people would only learn the script, they would see something incredible unfolding before their own eyes. It's very different for someone to be reading this now than to have read this 150, 200 years ago, where he would have said, well, God willing, inshallah, my children, my grandchildren should be able to see this. We're seeing this now. So therefore, these are words that hopefully will strengthen all of us, even those who are believers, to realize that there is a script, and many of the details of Geulat Mitzrayim, the Exodus from Egypt, will resemble what we're about to see. So we left off in verse 13, chapter 80, talking about the geffen, the vine that Hashem took out from Egypt. Took out the Jewish people who resemble a vine in various ways, especially the fact that the grapes are so precious, we make wine from it, and that is the Torah. What do we have to offer? People think, oh, the Jews, they invented many things, they discovered many things. Those discoveries, of course, inventions, whatever they may be, are helpful. They have contributed to humanity in many ways. But the main contribution is the Torah that we have. The problem is, we have the Torah and we don't follow it, that is no good. And we suffered as a result of having committed ourselves to follow the Torah and not following it. And that's what the Navi here, Asaph, in chapter 80, speaks about. He's saying, Hashem, you know the future. You were aware that we would sin. You still have to show that you're upset, obviously, otherwise we're never going to come back. But he's wondering about this long exile. He doesn't see an end to it. And that is why he says, this geffen that you took care of so beautifully in the past, you did so much for the Jewish people. Lama paratzta gederea ve'arua kol ovre darech, verse 13. He says, why did you allow that the fences that surround the vine, where there's vines growing, that those fences should be breached, broken down? And as a result of the fences that protected being broken down, ve'arua kol ovre darech, all the passerbys, ovre darech, those who pass by, arua means they began picking at it, picking the fruits, taking everything for themselves. In other words, this land, after the Jews were expelled, went into exile, even though some remained, was taken over by many nations, one after another, but none of them ever stayed for too long. And that was a blessing that the Torah says. No one will settle that land and be the new owners of that land forever. They will come and go, yes, until Mashiach comes. But why did you allow this to happen for so long? That just all these passerbys are coming and picking its fruit. Yecharsemena chazir miyar veziz sadayirena. These are very, very powerful words. He says, chazir is a pig, but we're not just talking about an ordinary pig here. We're talking about chazir miyar, a boar. You know what a wild boar is? An animal that's a lot more dangerous than just a pig. So you allowed the wild boars the boars of the yar, meaning of the forests, to ravage, to destroy. Have you ever seen grass, lawns, plants that have been ravaged by wild boars? I have, in the Golan Heights. They're looking for the roots. They're digging with their claws. They can be very destructive. But why would he describe here a wild boar? Who is he talking to? Who is he referencing? V'ziz sadayir'ena. And besides the wild boars, you have all these creeping animals that creep into fields, maybe moles, all kinds of animals that eat at it and destroy it further, continuously. There's no landlord, there's no one there to take care of it. And all of these animals, these wild animals, are tearing it apart. But this is referencing Christianity. Edom, the Edomites, Rome. They are the ones that destroyed the Second Temple. It is from there that Christianity began. And the reason why this is a problem is, remember, this is an old argument between Yaakov and Esav. This goes back a long time. Esav wants to control the world. Esav, as I explained once, wants to claim that it could be religious too. The Jews, they didn't do a good job. Hashem, let me take over. I'm going to start with the religion, and I'm going to give the other cheek. I'm going to be nice. But what is a pig? A pig is a hypocrite. How is it a hypocrite? It always likes to show off its hoofs. You see, I have split hoofs. I'm a kosher animal. I'm a pure animal. Exterior-wise, it likes to show how nice it is, how pure it is, but inside it is not. It is tameh, impure. So this is the hypocrisy that, unfortunately, the world has to face. People are not real, but forget about people right now. Here is a religion, an organized religion. I'm not saying that every member of that religion. There's a lot of good people in every religion, in every country, regardless of their background and faith. There are a lot of good people. Unfortunately, there are a lot of bad people too. But here, it's under the guise of a religion that supposedly is supposed to, profess or say or teach certain things, and it doesn't necessarily follow them. But let's say that's the way they want to live their life. Then why bother the Jew? Mind your own business. This Chazir has a problem. We've suffered a lot more from the Catholic Church than we did from Muslims. We have difficulties with Ishmael too. But the problems with the Catholic Church was a lot more serious, because it's giving them a hard time. Here the Jew is steadfastly holding on to what they call the Old Testament. It's the only testament we have. There's no such thing as an old and a new. It's the Torah, the Jewish Bible. And they say, no, God changed his mind. No, we are the new Jews. No such thing. He never told us that. So, okay, fine. So we have an argument about it, but why kill? Why inquisitions and why persecute? So obviously, this is partially to do with our sins, with our behavior between us and Hashem. But how do they justify it? There's no justification. So it's called Chazir, because it represents a nation that is not really acting with integrity. Like the Chazir, who likes to show off the part of him that is pure, but the inside is totally not pure. So how long are you going to let these guys take over or be in control? Which they did. They did have control of the land for a little while. How long is this going to go on? Elohim Tzevaot Shuvna Habet Mishamayim Ur'eu Fkod Gefen Zot. Therefore, I'm asking Hashem to bring back the rightful owner, bring back your children. And the way he says it is by using the name Elohim, which is judgment, God, Tzevakot, which is the hosts, the God of the hosts, or the armies. Shuvna habet mishamayim ur'eu v'kod gefen zot. Please return, look down from heaven and see, and be mindful pay attention or call upon, however you want to translate the word pekod. I prefer actually the translation in call upon or instruct, that this geffen, this vine, should be redeemed. Even though he doesn't say the word redeemed, but that's what he means by the word pekod. Pekod means to bring about, to announce, to formally let everyone know that the time has come. So let's finish with this exile, let's bring them back. Commentaries don't talk too much about the various words here being used, but I'd like to just elaborate a little bit more, because I think it does contain some additional information, not just words. Return, look down, see. What's all this for? Perhaps it is describing stages. There are stages in the Geulah. When the redemption begins, it doesn't just happen 1, 2, 3. It takes time to bring the people home, to rebuild the temple. There will be a stage of Tchiyat HaMetim, when the dead will be resurrected, which is years later. But here we're talking about a similar process to what happened in Egypt. So you have people who are calling out to Hashem, crying out to Hashem. And you will have that too right before Mashiach comes. In the mid-70s, after the Yom Kippur War, that is when we more or less figure began the Tshuva movement, especially in Israel, but it spread all over the world. You have a lot of Russians in the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, returning, becoming familiar with their Judaism. Whereas for several generations, not one, several, they were completely detached. It was a crime to practice Judaism openly. So you have that in Russia, you have that in Europe, you have that in Latin America. Everywhere you have a resurgence of Jewish people, men and women, doing teshuvah. So you have a shuv. So there's a certain tshuva movement that, of course, Hashem is bringing it about by awakening in us somehow, directly and indirectly. People are being awakened. So we're asking for that to happen. We're asking for habit, for Hashem to look down with mercy and compassion, which is also related to the ingathering, to the final redemption, because we may not have completely deserved all the miracles. Just like in Egypt, there was a lot of accusations against us. But when the time comes, Hashem promise. Yes, I did promise, but how will this come about? Through pain? You know, when a woman gives birth, it could be a natural birth, it could be a C-section, a painful C-section. So we're asking for habit. Habit is really to look at the big picture, look from above, where you can see a lot more, even though Hashem doesn't have to look from above to see everything. He knows everything. But it's consider everything, perhaps consider the merit of our forefathers. Look down with midat harachamim, with the attribute of mercy. Ur'eh, and take a close look. Re'eh, take a close look at the pain and suffering, at the terrible assimilation that has occurred. And therefore, bring about, called geffen zot, this vine that we've been talking about, enable it to, again, once again, be replanted in its land and grow again and be who it is, who it really should be. You know, was close to you, treated as a child, respected hopefully by everyone else. And that's how it will be when Mashiach comes, when people realize the truth of everything. What else besides bringing the Jewish people back? It's not just for us, it's for you too. So we're saying, V'chana asher nata'ah yeminecha v'al beni matzta lach. We're also talking about chana, kan. The word kan is referring to a foundation. What foundation was planted? The foundation which your right hand has planted is the temple, the Beit HaMikdash. Your right hand has planted that. In other words, you've established that in Israel twice. We want that restored again. Val beni matztalach, and the son whom you strengthened for yourself, or you took for yourself. Which son? The Jewish people. There was also Esav. Hashem chose Yaakov, not Esav. Hashem chose Yitzchak, not Ishmael. So the Navi is being very specific. Remember, it was us, not the other child that you took, that you said that he will be the one that will inherit the land. So here the prophet is recalling all that in a beautiful way. And imagine somebody reading all of this, hopefully understanding these words as well. Yeah, we were the chosen ones. We were picked. We were obviously picked for a certain mission. So Hashem doesn't know that. Of course Hashem knows that. But what did we say last time? These are words that are intended for us to say, to impress upon us, even though we're saying it to Hashem. The prophet is talking to Hashem. Hopefully by reading this over and over again, we will realize, wow, Hashem really loves us. He really took care of us. He really did so much for us, and how have we behaved? Not so nice. But that's all in the past. Hopefully more and more people are doing teshuvah and things are going to change. But in the meantime, he says, Serufa ba'esh kesuha. It is burned by fire. You can even see some of the stones from the first temple still. Not too far from the western wall. There's fire on it. I mean, you can see the dark spots where they burnt. Serufa ba'esh kesuha. Kesuha means chopped down, cut down. Miga'arat panecha yovedu. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. I mean, there's the potential that they may perish as a result of your rebuke. Miga'arat panecha, the rebuke of your presence. So, if you don't bring the Geulah quickly, that's what may happen. That more and more people may become estranged. It was distant from Judaism. Tehi yadecha al ish yeminecha, towards the end of the chapter, let your hand be upon the man of your right hand, al ben adam imatztalach, upon the son of man whom you strengthened for yourself. So again, he repeats what he said earlier, that may it be that you choose the one that you've chosen before, but he's also adding the word ish yeminecha, which is a reference to Mashiach. May it be that you bring about this event, this major event that we're all looking forward to, the Geulah, and that you support, you put your hand and protect the man who will lead the Jews out of the diaspora, and that is Mashiach. He's called Ish Yeminecha, the man of your right hand. Al ben Adam imatztalach, or the son of the man whom you strengthened for yourself, which could either be David, because Mashiach is from the descendants of David, or referring to the lineage of Yaakov, from where all the 12 tribes come from. So Hashem directed from here, not from somewhere else. The Geulah has to come through us. V'lo nasog mimeka, so that, God forbid, it should not get any worse, that people will withdraw. Nasog is to withdraw, to let go, to give up hope. Tehayenu u'b'shimcha nikra. Revive us, so we can proclaim your name once again. So here the Navi is obviously seeing that there will be people who will be nasog, who will withdraw. Millions, unfortunately. Some of them were forced against their will. Some of them already, because their parents and grandparents did not have a Jewish education, grew up without it. Some of them let go of it when they came to this country after the hardships of Europe. As soon as they saw the Statue of Liberty, they said, oh, I'm a free man, free from religion too, unfortunately. Yeah. And a lot of them just gave everything up. They wanted to be more American than Jewish. Unfortunately, they didn't realize that the two are not a contradiction, even though it was challenging. Until Eisenhower, people had to work 6 days a week. Today we have a long weekend. And they were challenged. So what did many Jews do who did not want to give up Shabbat, no matter what, even if they would be fired? They worked for themselves. And Hashem, of course, provides parnasah, livelihood. If we respect Him, as we will soon see in the next chapter, he talks a little bit about that too. He takes care of all our needs. What's the worry? Well, we're not here to blame We can't blame anyone. We don't know what we would have done in their situation. But it's sad, and that's why the Navi is talking about it. It's sad to see that some people will give up and withdraw. So don't let it happen. The last verse of chapter 80, Adonai Elohim Tzevaot Hashivenu Al Panecha B'nei Mashiach. If you've been following, this is a very interesting pasuk, because in this pasuk he brings all three names together: Hashem, Elokim, Tzevakot. Before that he didn't say all three, so he's adding the name of Hashem. In other words, the Lord, God of hosts, if you want to really be particular about the English translation. But the name of Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, represents His mercy. So here he is including the attribute of mercy in the final redemption, because it will overlook any sins that still may remain in their present spiritual situation, which may not be so good. Nonetheless, the Midat HaRachamim will come in and play an active role in bringing about the Geulah. So therefore he says, Hashem Elokim Tzevakot, Hashivenu, bring us back, which means two things: enable the Teshuvah movement to happen, and bring us back physically to the land of Israel. Ha'er panecha b'nei Mashiach, so that your countenance hopefully will shine on us, that we may be saved. And this countenance shining upon us is a very important idea, because it represents the exact opposite of Ester Panim, the concealment of Hashem's face, where we don't see open miracles, where we think, God forbid, or some people think, that He has abandoned us, which is not true. As in Shir HaShirim, he describes it so beautifully in Song of Songs. Metzitz min hacharakim, mashgiach min hachalonot. You don't see God? I'll tell you why: because He's hiding behind the windows, between the cracks. He's peeking through. He can see us, we can't see Him. So that concealment is not an entire concealment, it's a concealment for us. We can't see it. But obviously when things become more revealed, as we get closer to Mashiach, they will be more revealed. It will be ha'er panecha. His countenance will shine. It will become more and more obvious to everyone that Mashiach is coming. The name Elokim obviously is also important, because we're talking about judgment on those nations that acted in a very wicked way. All of this will happen at the same time. So that is what we're hoping for very, very soon, that there will be ha'er panim. Ha'arat panim is something that only years ago, when we had a Bet HaMikdash, was it visible. Today we see just a blink, parts of it, when we see a miracle, an obvious miracle, to those who understand that this is a miracle. So you see like a blink, or Hashem, I wouldn't say, maybe perhaps we'll call it a wink. No, that's another word, a better word. Hashem winking at us, like, yeah, I'm coming, just wait, get ready. Chapter 81, Pei Aleph. So the Segula, again, the power of this chapter is to be protected from any ideas, any thoughts of going after idol worshipping, or today atheistic beliefs. So this is for the conductor upon the Gitit for Asaf. So Asaf is continuing to communicate these words. What's Gitit? Some say it's a musical instrument that comes from Gat. Gat is where Gaza is today, Ashkelon. That's southwestern portion of Israel. So some say that's what Gitit means. But it could also be referencing, at least Beremez, in an insinuated fashion, a prophecy in Yoel that talks about the culmination of the Messianic era involving a gat, a wine press, which has to do with the end. Because you pick the grapes, then you press them, you get the wine. So Gitit may have something to do with that prophecy that talks about the end of times, what will happen with, of course, those that did not follow in Hashem's path. Either way, it could be referencing more than one thing. So here he begins this chapter by telling us you have reason to sing. This chapter is a lot more optimistic. It's a lot happier because not only does it talk about Mashiach, it talks about the importance of the day of Rosh Hashanah. And a lot of people are unaware of the connection of Rosh Hashanah, which is the day of judgment, in a sense, and the Geulah and the redemption. So he says like this, sing to God, Uzenu, who is our strength, Hariu Lelohei Yaakov. Hariu, what's Hariu? Hariu means to sound the shofar, not the drums, not the violin, Hariu. So it's sound the shofar, to who? Lelohei Yaakov, to the God of Yaakov. So, what does this have to do with what we're talking about, with the Geulah? Rosh Hashanah, as you know, is the day of judgment. But it's a day that we also celebrate. How could you celebrate if it's a day of judgment? You're supposed to be fearful. You don't know the outcome of your day in court. But we are confident that if we do the right thing and we repent and we ask Hashem to forgive us, comes along Yom Kippur, the day of atonement, He will forgive our sins. So it is an incredible, holy day, special day, where there's a lot of focus, a lot of attention given to us. It's a day of judgment for the entire world. But for the Jews, it's significant for another reason, because that is an et ratzon, a time of itorerut, an awakening. In the same way that the human being, especially Jew, is supposed to be awakened during the time month of Elul and then Rosh Hashanah, this is an awakening b'shamayim too for the Geulah. According to one opinion, the Geulah, the redemption, begins on Rosh Hashanah. In other words, there's something that awakens on that day to start. It doesn't mean that everything happens on that day. The Geulah, the redemption, takes several years. It happens in several stages. But there's some itorerut. Just like there's an awakening itorerut down here, there's an awakening up there. And in the same way that we are awakened on Rosh Hashanah, there's an awakening for Mashiach also on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is also a time of judgment for one's livelihood.
What?
Livelihood, the parnasah. How will it be this year? Does it stay status quo like last year? Or do we improve his mazal, diminish his mazal? A lot of things are decided in Rosh Hashanah. So it's a very significant time, not only for the Jews, for the Goyim too. So what is there to sing about? To sing about in preparation for the redemption. It is not just for Rosh Hashanah here. It is a celebration for the coming Geulah that's going to come through an itorerut, through an awakening that will happen on Rosh Hashanah. What's the connection between this final Geulah, this final redemption, in Mitzrayim? After all, we said before that there is a connection, there's a script, there's a lot of similarities. Well, coming out of bondage is called Cherut. Zman Cherutenu, this is the time of our freedom. And so is Rosh Hashanah, when one becomes hopefully free from his sins. There's a connection to Rosh Hashanah with Mitzrayim. There's a connection from Rosh Hashanah to the coming Geulah, when we will be free from our bondage, from this exile that we're in. So he's telling us to celebrate, to be joyous, because in the end, even though there's judgment, Hashem says, I will forgive you. Yes, it's true, there's judgment, and there has been a lot of judgment, a lot of pain and suffering, but I'm going to forgive you, because the Geulah will come. I promise to bring the redemption, so there's nothing for you to be concerned about at the very, very end. Well, I should say that people should hopefully pray that they should live to see it. That's something else, but that it will come, it will come. So get ready, he says. Take out all your musical instruments and take out the shofar, because of what it represents in celebrating their coming redemption soon. Next. Se'u zimra utnu tov kinor na'im im navel. So here you have the various musical instruments that he's calling on the Leviim, the Levites who are in charge of singing and playing the music. And he says to them, raise your voice, Se'u zimra, to sing, utnu tov, start playing the drums. Kinor, you know what the kinor is? It's not the violin
Oh, no.
Today they use it to describe the violin. It's the harp. In those days, the kinor was the harp. Kinor naim, the pleasant harp. Im navel, and the lyre, L-Y-R-E. They are both very similar, by the way, the kinor and the navel. The only difference is in the number of strings or chords, but they pretty much look very similar. Either way, there were other musical instruments. This is the ones that he chooses to call upon. And he calls on the Leviim to bring them out. Why? Because on that day, what does the prophet say? Bayom yitaka b'shofar gadol. There will be another shofar, a bigger shofar, that will be sounded. In other words, it will be a time of beautiful sounds that will come to announce the Geulah, to announce the redemption. Why is this associated with Tishrei? Because again, according to one opinion, Tishrei is a time of Geulah. According to another one, it's Nisan. So there is a connection between the Rosh Hashanah and the Geulah. So he calls out, Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu. You may be familiar with this pasuk. We say it during Rosh Hashanah in the prayers. Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu. Blow the shofar on the new month. B'kesel yom chagenu, on the designated day of our holy day, or of our holiday. The word bakes is a very interesting word. Kese means to cover up. Why is Rosh Hashanah called a covered up day? Because there's no moon. The moon is covered. It's the only holiday to happen on the beginning of the month. All the other holidays are not at the beginning of the month when the moon is covered. Why is it so significant to point this out? Because we don't want the Satan to be aware of it. The Satan is not being told when Rosh Hashanah is. That is why we have the custom not to announce that the month of Tishrei will occur on this and this day. We do all kinds of things to conceal, even though the Satan can know all kinds of things, but we don't bring it out. We don't want to provoke, some sort of accusation upon us, unnecessary accusation. So it's concealed. Hashem conceals a lot of things from the Satan in order to bring something about. Otherwise, there has to be a lot of judgment if it would be very open and revealed. So sound the shofar on this time of the year. This is after all our holiday. What's so significant about this holiday? For it is a decree for Israel, a ruling of the God of Yaakov. Hashem made it so that this should be a chok, that this should be the day of the year where judgment takes place. Hashem decided so. And Hashem also decided on the day of the Geulah. It is a chok, it is something that we don't understand, we don't know when it's going to be. Hashem promised, He decreed that there should be a Geulah, and there will be. In the same way that this is the day that we celebrate every year on Rosh Hashanah. Edut b'Yosef samo b'seto al Eretz Mitzrayim sefat lo yadati yishma. Now you may, reading through this chapter, ask yourself, what's the connection between Yosef and what we've just finished saying? It really does not appear to have any connection, but you will soon see that there is. Otherwise, why mention now Yosef? In verse Vav 6, he's saying he ordained it as a precept. In other words, he instituted it for Yosef, for Joseph. B'seto al Eretz Mitzrayim, when he went forth in the land of Egypt. Sefat lo yadati eshma. I heard a language which I did not know, Yosef is saying. So, what does this have to do with anything? Yosef going forth in Egypt, that means he's appointed to a very high position. Where was he just before? He was in prison. Oh, I see. Yosef is in prison. He becomes second in command. Just like that. Interesting. Does that remind you of anything? Well, the Jewish people are in prison. And as soon as Hashem decides, boom, they come out. There's some connection. But wait a minute, why talk about Yosef? Well, Yosef also came out on Rosh Hashanah. See? So therefore, he's not just making up words over here. He's telling us, you see, there's a script. Remember there's a script? Remember there's a repetition of things that happened in the past? The names have changed, that's all. But you're going to have a leader. Yosef is a leader. There's a Mashiach ben Yosef too, by the way. But what about the language here? So there's several interpretations of why he says a language, I began to speak a language I did not know. There's a midrash that Gabriel taught him many languages so that he should be able to take on this position. Otherwise, they would not have appointed him. So all of a sudden, he's able to communicate in a language that previously he did not know. Or you can say simply, all of a sudden, he is, of course, in a position that he did not expect. All of a sudden, he's speaking Egyptian more than before. All of a sudden, he's needing to communicate on such a level that he did not before. All of that could be referring to what he's saying here, that all of a sudden Yosef began to speak a language he did not know before. Fine. All of this is acceptable. But the main point is the connection that this has to do with the Mashiach, with the Geulah, the final redemption. But the word Yosef here, the name Yosef, is written very different than the usual. If you look at the word, it says Hedut Bihosef. There's an extra hey.
Yeah.
That's very significant. You see, if you only read an English translation of this, you're going to lose a lot. You look at the Hebrew, you say, what's this hey doing in the name of Yosef? The hey represents the Shekhinah, the divine presence. Why does Yosef get to be the ruler? Why does he get to be the second in command? He must have done something special. Yes, he resisted Eshet Potiphar. He resisted getting entangled, getting into trouble with the wife of Potiphar, who wanted him. And she's a married woman. And he's a young man. He's single. Very, very big challenge for him, or for almost any man who may be confronted with that kind of pressure. A lot of people would do all kinds of things just to get ahead in life. Yosef resisted. The Torah describes how he ran out. It's not just a midrash, because that is a very significant event in our history. If you want to know why Yosef merited that position. So he has that hey that's added to him, that extra level of purity or divine presence, the Shekhinah being with him, because that is very, very significant. If somebody holds himself back from sin, he's definitely able to grow a lot and come closer to Hashem. So maybe this is also referring to the last days of our exile, that we need merits. We have to be careful. There's a lot of challenges we may face. We need to contend with. People have to learn to resist and to be strong, so that we can merit to live through the tribulations of the Messianic era. There will be tribulations, all kinds of hardships. So we need merits. Zayin, Hasiroti misevel shichmo kabav midud ta'avorna. I have taken off from his shoulder, from the burden that was on it. His hands were removed from the pot. This is describing bondage, whether it's bondage with sevel, a burden, whether it's bondage with kapav midud. It's a very interesting description of servitude or bondage, having to fill pots and be a cook. If you're a slave, that's the menial type of labor that you would be asked to do. So all kinds of labor, all kinds of toil, all part of the bondage that the Jews had to do in Egypt, and that may have done throughout this long exile. Being servants, being slaves, being sold to slavery too. So Hashem says, I removed that once upon a time, didn't I? You went out. You left. Forever. although some people went back to live in Egypt years later, but as a nation, you left, you were no longer in bondage. So I did that once upon a time, didn't I? And I will do it again. בצרה קראת וחלצך אינך בסתר רעם אפחונך ממריבה סלע. In distress, בצרה, in times of distress, you called upon me, and I delivered you. חלצך. אינך בסתר רעם, you may have pleaded with me quietly, but ra'am, when I showed up in a thunderous way, because there were wonders, there were miracles. Still, I did all of this knowing in advance that you're going to be tested with the waters in Meriva. And you will be tested at other times as well. That's why perhaps he uses the word Selah over and over again. Hashem says, look what I did for you. I took you out. I accepted your prayers. You called out to me. Remember when Hashem called? When the Jewish people called out to Hashem, it says that their prayers, their pleading, went up to heaven. Hashem heard their cries and their pleading, and He decides to redeem them. That's telling us that this is what He expects of us to do now too, to call out to Him, to plead with Him, to cry out to Him, because He calls, I will answer. In other words, if you call upon me, I did that in the past. I do so. When people really call out to me sincerely. Even though you pleaded with me quietly, in secret. Ra'am, I came out and I showed myself with a thunderous, Ram is thunder, thunderous wonders. Even though I knew in advance that you're going to give me a hard time. An example, Me Meriva. The waters of Meriva. In other words, throughout the desert there were troubles, there were complaints, there were issues. Hashem knows this in advance. So look, the prophet is telling us, you see, Hashem knew this all in advance, and He still did all this for us. You owe Him a lot, don't you? That's really the point He's trying to get across. And this is the same thing in this long exile. Hashem knows exactly what's going to be. He knows where the Jews are heading. He knows of the trouble that they're going to be in. But still, He looked after us. So therefore, Shema Ami Va'ida Bach Yisrael Tishma Ali. These last Pesukim, the last verses of this chapter, are very powerful. Because they remind us of something that a lot of Jews do not even realize. That if they were only a little bit closer to Him, things would be so different. Now, even though there's a lot of good people, tzaddikim, very righteous people who are very close to Him, yeah, but we're talking about an entire family, an entire nation that has to be closer. So that's what we don't see, that closeness from Hashem. The potential is so great, and that's what He talks about now. Shema Ami Va'ida Bach. Hear my people, and I will testify or admonish you of the following. Yisraelim Tishmali, if you would only listen to me, you have no idea how things will be so much better. What is He telling us so far? That if the Jewish people would only listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything would be different. I would like to say, I haven't seen anybody else say it, but the fact that there's so much bug infestation, bugs in lettuce, vegetables. You know, as Jews, we have to check anything that is really infested, or that we know that there's good chance of being infested. We have to check it before we eat it. But why should something be infested? So people are going to blame the humidity, the pesticides, all kinds of other issues. No. It can't be. Why should Israel suffer from so much infestation? Here in the West Coast, there's still infestation, but not as much. It has to do with the weather, it has to do with the soil, it has to do with a lot of factors. Some places are more infested than others. But Israel is a land of Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. It's a blessed land. Hashem says it's a blessed land. I'm bringing you to the best place. They grow almost anything there, even mangoes. They didn't have that years ago. It's blessed. Why? Why should it be so difficult to eat a strawberry? Very difficult. They have to put it in soap water, they have to chop off the top, just to make sure that there's no crawling aphids or bugs or worms or whatever it is that is infesting that fruit or vegetable. Why should it be so difficult? Because there's not enough beracha. If there's not enough rain, drought, or there's infestations, it doesn't have to be locust. Oh, if I saw millions of locusts, I would think, oh, this must be something wrong. Something we're doing. No, even such infestation in the trees, in the plants, it's not a good sign. Can't you learn a lesson from this? I haven't seen anybody talk about it, unfortunately. People, don't you realize it's not normal? People have gotten used to it. It's normal. It's not. It shouldn't be that way. Now they're going to blame global warming for that too. Anything but themselves. If you would only listen to me, he says, Lo yeh bcha el zar velo tishtachavel el nechar. You should have no strange god within you, nor should you bow down to a foreign deity. El nechar, foreign deity. Now, he's talking about in you and bowing down. Because it begins within you. It begins with the thoughts. How people think. They think the wrong ideas. They have the wrong ideas in mind, the wrong hashkafot, the wrong perspective and outlook. And that leads them to eventually commit the sin, to bow down and worship other deities. But there is no such a thing as another deity. Hashem controls everything. Then why do you put your faith in money? And why do you follow some other strange philosophies? Oh, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's not compatible with Judaism. You can't learn about it. It's poison to you. So this means a lot of things, but it really is focusing on the Yetzer Hara more than anything else, the evil inclination that is misleading people. So be careful. Just be careful with controlling your evil inclination, not having the wrong thoughts, because that would lead you astray. Who should you follow? Very simple. Don't you remember the 10 Commandments? Anochi Adonai Elohecha malcha meretz Mitzrayim achef picha v'maleu. I'm the one. I'm the God that took you out of Egypt. Just open your mouth. This is beautiful words. Archef picha v'maleu. Open wide your mouth. In other words, tell me what you want, and I'll fill it. I'll grant it to you. How? When? If you follow what I tell you to do. Because I'm the one that took you out of Egypt. He doesn't say I'm the one that created the world. He's only saying that's the same thing in the Torah. It's only stated what we know for a fact, because we witnessed it, experienced it, we're told by our parents who were there, that this is what happened. Everything is Zechel Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's to remember having left Egypt. Hashem doesn't say, I'm the God that created the world, by the way. Oh, really? Was anybody there around when you created the world? How do we know this happened? No, Hashem does not say that. Hashem talks about Yetziat Mitzrayim, and Yetziat Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt, is very, very much emphasized all over the Torah and in many mitzvot that we perform, because we're connected to that. We know that for a fact it happened. So who did it for you? I'm the one. No one else helped you, so why would you go somewhere else? But that's what happens when people are not sincere. They're fake. They're not strong enough. They get messed up by adopting all kinds of strange ideas that are alien to their emunah. If you would only follow me and remember me and trust in me, I would grant you what you want. Archef picha. Just ask and I would give it to you. But what happened instead? Lo shama mi lekoli v'Yisrael lo avali. So he's recalling back the history, the past. My nation didn't listen to me. My people didn't heed my voice. Israel did not listen to me. So he's saying my people and Israel, what's the difference? The commentators say that Israel is referring to even the rabbis, even the leaders. Ami is the people. But even some of the leaders were corrupted, unfortunately. Do you know that during the Second Temple era, there were, in 420 years, there were about 300 high priests. In the First Temple era, there were only 18. It lasted 410 years. 18 versus 300? How come? Because they died in the Second Temple. They didn't last more than a year. They didn't deserve to go into the Holy of Holies. Why not? Because they bought the kehuna. It was a political position. They actually bought their way in. They didn't deserve to be the high priest. They were not qualified. They did not behave themselves. How could it be? You say, they see a temple. Money, corruption. These are not symptoms of the past, when man lived in a cave. These are symptoms that exist all the time. People, human beings, are corruptible. In other words, the same evil inclination, the same wants and desires that existed back then exist now too. And the best of us, unfortunately, sometimes fall for it. So you want to know what's going on? This is what's going on. They didn't follow my word. They didn't listen to me. This is one of my favorite. Verse 13. He says, so what did Hashem decide to do? Okay. They don't believe I'm around. They don't believe I provide for them. They don't think I'm behind the miracle. It's an act of nature. Okay. I'm going to let them go and act according to their whims and wishes. Shrirut libam means I will send them away to the willfulness of their heart. In other words, let them believe what they want to believe. Let them behave the way they want to believe. Let them behave the way they want to behave. I'll let them deal with things the way they want to. Let them think what they want to think. They want to think that this is an act of nature. Okay. They want to think that this is a freak accident, that this is not me. Let's see what happens. All of a sudden they will realize, where are all those miracles? How come Hashem is not protecting us? Because you don't want Him. You claim that you have the greatest air force in the world, and that's how you want the 6-day war. Oh, really? Let's see you in Yom Kippur without my protection. The Yom Kippur war was a lot more painful. Hashem says, you think that it's you think that it's just an act of nature, you think that it's just an accident, okay, I'm going to leave it to shrirut libechem, to, chance. Let's see how you're going to deal with things by chance, by luck, without Hashem's intervention. Yilchu b'moatzotehem. So let me see what you will do when you follow, or when I let you follow your evil designs. And what happened? Trouble. That's what happened. Hashem let them therefore go on for a while, according to chance, without him getting involved. And unfortunately, the results are very, very different. And then they complain, what's going on? And they still don't attribute it to Hashem. And that's the most painful thing of all. Look at the last 3 Pesukim, and he explains how things would be differently. If only my people would listen to me, and they would follow my ways. Then I will quickly subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their oppressors. Today, and in the past, a lot of times the Jews were busy trying to appease their enemies. They tried to appease the Germans by speaking German, by using the same dress code as the Germans, by even intermarrying. They said, let's get rid of this anti-Semitism. We don't know how to do it. We must be closer to them, not to stick out and stand out and be so different. And Hashem says, no. That's not the reason why those guys hate you, why those guys are after you. It's because you're not listening to me. Here you have a large percentage, unfortunately, of Jews in Western Europe back then, for the past couple hundred years, thinking that by assimilating to the culture of the Gentile, they'll be liked, and there will be no more anti-Semitism. And same thing in Israel. Let's appease our Arab cousins. They're cousins after all. Let's appease them. Everything will be okay. Let's give in here, let's give in that. That's not the problem. You're the problem, not them. As the other prophet says, Hoy Ashur Shevet Api, Ashur, the Syrian, is the whip of Hashem. Right? Hashem uses the whip, the stick, to go after us. It's not in them the problem per se, even though there are wicked people out there, but the anti-Semitism is caused or brought upon us because of us. So if you would only listen to me, I would get rid of your problems. I would humble them. I would subdue them. But what happens in reality is that those who hate the Lord, those that don't like Him, they deny everything. So there's 2 ways of understanding the word to deny. Either they say, it's not Hashem. Don't say something like that. You're mixing in religion over here. we have to be politically correct, use diplomacy. They will deny it and not attribute anything that goes wrong or anything that happens to us that is terrible and painful. They will not attribute it to him. They will deny it. That's one way. Some say yichachashu, those who are going to suffer, those who are about to get it over their head, will say, oh no, we were never enemies of the Jews. In other words, as soon as they see things are not going to go their way, they're going to try to deny it, the enemies. But I prefer the first interpretation, that a lot of people, when they see things are not working out for them, they are not going to blame themselves. They're not going to make cheshbon nefesh. They're not going to do some serious soul searching. Why is this happening? They hate God. They don't want to mix in God to the picture. Why did this terrible thing happen to you? Why is this going on? Why can't you resolve the problem no matter what you do? It has to do with a problem that you have with Hashem. Don't deny it. Don't try to figure out something else. V'hi itam le'olam, and they're going to suffer. Their retribution will be forever. They're going to suffer the consequences for a long time. Those who deny that connection with Hashem. That's the last pasuk. I would feed them, the Jewish people, with the finest wheat and sate you with honey from the rock. Those who do not know a little bit about the 40 years in the desert may not realize what is he talking about here. But during the 40 years of the desert, they were taken care of by Hashem with the man that was like honey. They were provided with water that was sweet. It doesn't say it here, but they also had air conditioning. They were protected from all the elements. They were very, very well taken care of. As Hashem says through the prophet, Vayachileu, I would feed them again. I would take care of all their needs. If they only followed me, no politics, no divisiveness, no issues with me. Just follow the Torah. The land of Israel would be the most beautiful and the best place on earth. Not only economically, climate-wise too. No bugs, no enemies. A bug is an enemy too, another kind of enemy. I would give you the honey. No, it was the best crop. Everything would be good. You'd have enough rain. The Torah says so. If you follow my statute, you'll have rain on time. Not a batzoret, not a drought. Look what's going on in California now. Fires, drought. What's this? Oh, it's just dry and it's Santa Ana. Excuses. These are all excuses. Mm-hmm. That's what the prophet is warning, not only the Jewish people, but everyone who follows these words, that it's up to us to behave ourselves and to earn the protection from Hashem.